What's up, everybody? It's Doug with Mojobreak Media. Excited to bring you another episode of the Mojobreak Sessions. I'm excited to bring on Michael Hodges from the Clubhouse Breaks. Been a great friend for over 10 years. One of the OGs in this hobby. Been breaking ever since the beginning. So we have some fun conversations about how it all started, the National this year, what are some of the nuances of breaking, what he thinks about some of the hot products. It's an amazing conversation. So you guys are in for a treat on this one. We have more Mojobreak sessions coming up as well, so stay tuned. But for now, if you guys are into breaking boxes, go to mojobreak.com, as well as if you're into getting your own boxes, go to mojobreakshop.com, where we have the latest in sealed wax shipped around the world. We've got cases, we've got all sports, we've got Marvel, we've got Pokemon, we got all the hottest NFL, MLB, NBA on mojobreakshop.com. And there's always usually a deal of the day. So make sure you check that out. And without further ado, here's Michael. We're here with Michael Hodges from the Clubhouse Breaks, one of the OGs in the hobby. Started breaking, like eons ago, it feels like, and went through the ups and downs that ourselves here at Mojobreak have as well. So we're going to have some awesome conversation. Mike, what's going down, man?
Hey, what's going on, brother? Good to be on. Thanks for having me. There we go.
Good to have me too. Yeah, we're on the internet, so it kind of works both ways. Absolutely, man. So the Nationals are around. Before we get started about the group break talk, the National is around the corner. Tell people what the Clubhouse has planned for the National.
Yeah, we'll be there. Like always, it's kind of a crazy year this year with late notice and all that good stuff. But we'll have our booth and we'll be breaking like everybody is, all day, every day, pretty much, and hopefully have some fun at night as well. So, looking forward. I think
you might have been the first one to have a booth at the National out of all of us breakers, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Baltimore in whatever year that was.
13, I think it was like 13 or 14 or something, right?
Yes, I don't know. Earlier than that, it would have been like maybe 12.
Wow.
Is that right? Something like that.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because I think the Group Break Pavilion came around in like 2015 or something, right?
So, yeah, it was a couple years before that, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, man, he got a great setup over there because he's not in the pavilion. He's got his little corner spot. I think you've had couches in the past, which is pretty awesome. I was thinking about taking a nap on that couch for a minute,
Anytime.
Yeah, might have to take you up on it this year. I mean, if there's any space, you may have people standing on your couch based on the amount of people that are there. Yeah,
it's going to be nuts.
So when did you guys establish? Was it 2010? Was it 2011-ish?
2010, yeah. 2010 was year one, and the rest is history from there, I guess. But yeah, 2010, and it wasn't really well, no one knew it was going to be what it is today, right? So it was just having fun, while I was in college and I just got married. So just having some fun in the hobby, and it just kind of went crazy from there. So
and that was STL Sports Cards, right? Was
correct. Yeah. Originally STL Sports Cards. And then, just over the years, a few years in, we're like, man, we weren't even in St. Louis anymore. And so people were like, oh yeah, they're from St. Louis. I'm like, no, we're not. But I guess our name would make sense. Yeah, we just rebranded as the Clubhouse kind of a few years in, and a little more generic branding and whatnot. So,
right. Now, does it feel like 10 years? Does it feel like 10 years to you, or does it feel like yesterday?
Kind of both, Yeah, I think after the last 18 months we've had, it really feels like 10 years. But at the same time, it feels like yesterday that we were, going to the Orleans and Las Vegas for industry meetings, and everyone's like, who are these people who don't have brick and mortars and are disrupting our industry? So it feels like yesterday that was happening. So it's I guess kind of a little of both. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually, you reminded me of a story. Me and Dan were sitting in the room and we made some polos. I think it was the year of Andrew Lux. I think it was a 2012 summit. And it was the first one we had been to. And there was a room of like 30 or 40 people. And you're like, have to say how many years you've been to the summit and what you do. And everybody was like 7 years shop, 8 years shop, 9 years shop, 15 years shop. And we're like, first year box breaks. And then it just like the room went silent and just everybody paused and kind of stared at us for a minute and was just like, what do you mean?
True.
We break boxes. I bet you people were probably looking at us at the time going, you're here for pleasure, not business. Good luck with that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a lot of like, these guys are just messing around. Right. And I think there's a lot of like initially, and maybe rightfully so, like, oh, they're here to cannibalize, on what we've built. Right. And, obviously now 10 years later, everyone knows that's not the case. But
right. I know it felt like it took at least 5-6 years to get embraced by like the shop. I think the shop owners and I'm a shop owner now.
For sure.
Started as a breaker, but a shop owner now. But I think at the initial time, it was like these guys are going to fade away in like a couple years. They're not here to stay. So
no, for sure.
And there was a lot of guys that did, right? I mean, there was, everybody kind of lumps group breakers into like, oh, it's a guy in his mom's basement and he's breaking some boxes with and all he has is a webcam. And there was those guys, but the guys that have stuck around like yourself and Leighton and us and Firehand, those guys had a little bit more skin in the game than just a laptop in the mom's basement. So
for sure. And I think a lot of it goes back to probably, I mean, I don't know deeply into your origin stories and what fueled that, but everything we've done from day one, even before it was a big business type of thing, it was always just about taking the hobby I loved and kind of bring it to the modern age, right? And so it's always been about how can we do this better, right? How can we make this reach more people? And so it's always been about that, not have been how can we sell more, or how can we more cases. It's really been about just making the hobby more enjoyable, more accessible to everybody. And so I think when that's kind of the root of what you're doing, I think in the end, those people who are investing into the hobby, you guys do an incredible amount of investing into the hobby. Those people stay around, right? And people see through kind of the people who are in it for the quick buck and then out of it when it's hard. So that's kind of how it feels, at least.
Absolutely. And that kind of leads me right into that my first question is what was your inspiration? Like, what hit you to be like, I'm doing this for breaking?
For me, it was really easy in a way that some people it isn't. I was broke as a joke. I married really young. I was still in school and I loved the hobby. I had no money to spend on the hobby. And so it really just started with, I was doing mail day videos of really bad cards I was buying online, like for a couple bucks. And I just do a YouTube video, like opening my package. Right. And people were watching and just started commenting like, hey, you should get a box of something and we can split it up. And I was like, I was like, what? Like, what okay. And so it just started with a box of Artifacts hockey that I think I bought for like $90 and marked up to $140 with shipping and everything. And at the end, I think I had $25 left. And I was like, man, I had fun. I got to open a box and I'm $25 less broke than I was before.
Exactly.
So it just worked. And it kind of started there. And about a year and a half in, I think, is when I looked at my wife and I was like, I'm really confident that I can support us as much as I am now if I can just go all in and just devote all to it. And so
how did that conversation go? Was she like yes, or was she like hesitant?
She was not like yes, definitely not. I wasn't making like good money or anything, so it wasn't, that part of it was kind of out of the equation. But it was just an industry where what we were doing really didn't exist, right? There wasn't like a baseline for what we were doing, and so we were kind of, I want to say making it up as we went, but we were making it up as we went. So there was a lot of stress from her as a non-business minded, non-entrepreneurial spirit going, what do you mean no one, you're not going to take a paycheck from somebody anymore, right? So I think there's a lot of hesitance there, but ultimately she was just like, hey, if you think you can do it and you can do it, I know you can, then do it. And so that's where it kind of jumped. But yeah, it was a little bit of an awkward conversation that day, though, for sure.
And then I actually remember it tue. My wife was almost the same story. Where it's like, are you sure? Because we had been doing it part time, and I was like, I think we need to bump it up after, more than just the weekends. I'm going to go full time. Dan's going to keep his job, but I'm going to go full time. And then, wife's like, I don't know. Like, cards, people collect cards. You're like, and then you're telling your friends and they're like, are you okay? Like, are you sure that are you going to be okay? Do you need some help? What do you mean baseball cards? So yeah, I mean, it definitely was you taking that leap. And I think what I see in you and everybody that does this is the passion, right? That kind of just pushes you through everything, the ups and the downs.
Right. Exactly. That's been the baseline, right? It's like in a hot market, in a cold market, that part never changes. You're still excited even when 2013 football is coming in the door. It's like there's still a level of excitement there. So
yeah, I got to give you props on that. The 20101 you pulled that made it in that highlight video for number one. That was like a broadcaster call out, man. That was a good one. I like it.
I don't remember how that went, but appreciate it.
Yeah, sometimes you black out on those, right? And whatever just comes out of your mouth comes out.
I usually follow something like that up with. We keep our stream pretty PG. We have a lot of families that watch, and so I usually follow up a poll like that with, I don't know what I said, but if I said anything that was a little overboard, I apologize now.
Right? You're like, holy, yeah. We're kind of the same way. We've always done our feed that we wouldn't want to drop any bad words or anything because you just never know, especially fathers watching with their 6-year-old sons. You don't want to drop the F-bomb. So
exactly.
There's definitely some other channels for that, as we know. So
absolutely.
So when you started out and you were trying to scale, what do you think was your most difficult challenge?
Oh man, early on, I think scaling early on was tough because margins were nothing. And so especially in my position where I didn't have free cash, right? And so that was difficult early on, as well as our first full year, we still weren't allowed to be with a distributorship. And so acquiring product took upfront payment to a wholesaler, something like that. And so it was tough because you had to literally spend the money, put it out there, get the product in, turn the product to go get more product. Like there wasn't this coffer of money yet, right? And
all your money was tied up in your product until you broke.
Yeah, it was tough. And as you very well know, back then, it was not uncommon for a product to come out and on release day, obviously MAP existed and all that stuff, but like a product was well below what you paid for it on release day. And so there were a lot of times where you're sitting with a bunch of product that you just put money out for to have it, and it's not even worth what you paid for it. And so just it definitely created challenges early on because cash flow wasn't where it is today, and margins were nothing practically.
Right.
So that was probably the hardest part in the beginning, quite frankly. And I think it's come full circle now. It's like product is the problem again.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the rising secondary market prices.
Right.
Yeah, people wouldn't even believe if we went down some of the pricing like that we had back then. Like 13, 14 Prism, like $60, $70 or whatever it is. Yeah. How much that one haunts me. Obviously I don't look back because it's not healthy to look back, but like the amount of 13, 14 Prism cases I had that I was literally just giving away to people, getting me hitless packs, and you're just like, man, if you only had a crystal ball, just knew.
Yep. Heck, ours, we did it all the way back to the most recent one, I would say. So not all the way back, but I think it was the last national. We did the Super VIP with Panini, right? We did a few of those, and I think we ended up with, it was like 9 or 12 blaster cases of 18, 19 Prism basketball.
Yeah.
Well, at the time,
$30, $40.
Retail.
Yeah.
People were like, retail. Right. Yeah. I think there were $350 a case and something like that at wholesale. And so after we came back, we're like, we don't break retail.
Yeah.
And so for 2 weeks straight, we gave away a case on the stream every night, and we gave them away. And now you look at it, and it's just, we gave away over $100,000 in 2 weeks. It's like,
you should run the ad like with the price of how much it's worth now. Like we gave away this. This is what we do, right? We gave away $100,000 a night.
Right.
I don't know how much it's worth now. It's probably like $500 a blaster easily, right?
It's over 500. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah. Over 10 grand a case.
I'm pretty sure we had them too, and I don't know what we did with them, but we may have done something similar because we had those VIP passes too. So, oh man, it's crazy. It's crazy. So, and this is kind of an interesting question. What's something that happened back then, like when you started, that just no longer exists now?
Boy. Pre-orders? No.
Yeah, right. That's a good point. Yeah, no more pre-ordering with distributors.
They're like, are you sure you don't want to order more? Are you sure?
Right.
No.
Right. No,
oh,
that's totally a fair point. Blog TV, I guess, right? That no longer exists.
Lord. Blog TV, gosh. Rest in peace. Thank goodness. No.
Yeah. For those of you that don't know, because I think most of you are all in this hobby the last year or two, there was a place where breakers used to break called Blog TV, and we were all there. And it was, I think we call it the Wild Wild West. We've also called it some explicit names as well. But it was an interesting. Do you remember anything memorable from those times when you were on Blog TV?
Man, I just remember like if one person was down, everyone was down, constant buffering. It was just brutal. And the chat rooms were brutal. The people coming through chat was just bad. It was bad. It was just the worst. It was a cesspool of the hobby. Like, it was so bad.
I don't think there was any like registrations or like, you could create a million usernames. I remember the one thing that I always remember from it was like a guy would pop in and be like, "Don't buy from this guy. He ships all your cards in a PWE."
Right.
Which probably half the people didn't even know what that was anyway. They're like, "What do you mean a PWE?" Which is a plain white envelope. But they would just hit all the rooms, say that, and it's like, is that the worst compliment you have?
Is it the best you got?
I know, right? It's like, come on, man. So, and then I think what happened, I think some people went to Ustream and some people went to Breakers TV, and then we all transitioned to YouTube and Twitch and wherever we're at now, right? So
yeah, we kind of went we use YouTube as our streaming platform, and then we do it through our site, and it became just, as you know, like, anytime you got onto these platforms that tried to cater to specifically breakers, the chat environments were just unhealthy.
Exactly.
And so we've always tried to maintain, even in chat, family friendly, drama free, we'll call it, and so we just took it to our website, and it's like it's harder obviously to get traffic as you know, like directly to your site when you're not using like an app that's already in someone's phone, like YouTube or Facebook or something like that. But the trade-off is you get a lot more quality of people engaging in that, and so I don't know.
No, I definitely have seen that route be successful with a lot of guys when you vet everything and you just don't have some of those jokesters come in, and you don't have to ban anybody on a consistent basis.
Nope.
Which leads me to my next question. How do you guys deal with like negativity? Like, I'm not saying like somebody that's mad at you, but maybe just mad that they're not getting what they feel like they deserve in the group break. How do you guys handle that? Do you guys ignore them, or do you just, because I always look at it this way, there's guys having good times in the break, and then there's guys having, they're not hitting their Joe Burrow, and they're not necessarily excited. So it's like you're bringing down the guys that are having a good time.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a tough one to walk, because there's no right or wrong way to do it, right? There's different personality types. There's some guys who remember losses way more than they remember wins. You know this. There's some guys who are the opposite, who are super positive people, and one good card can make up for a whole month of no hits, right? And so I don't know. For me, I'm super analytical, and so anytime someone's not hitting or they are, I just try to remind people, like, look, we have no control over this. When I say we, not the customer, us, anybody. It's all just hoping you hit, right? And so at the end of the day, like, there's no one to blame. There's no one to be mad at. We're all on this ride together. It's like we try to educate up front, so it's like no one's surprised.
Sure.
I think the last couple of weeks, though, has been like, oh man, Top Sterling's only 2 cards in the box. I didn't know that. It's just like,
well, we've definitely had that uptick where like somebody buys into a Prism box break, and they're like, they buy 2 spots, and they're like, where's my 2 boxes of Prism?
Right.
And you're like, and we have, terms and conditions. It's all outlaid as much as it can. And you still get that question. I felt like there was a period of time that you didn't. But now with the influx of all the people jumping in, they may stumble on your site and they don't know what they're buying. But they buy it anyway without asking questions. And then it's hard to decipher those. Because like, are you upset that you didn't get it? Because it's always after the break, right? So you didn't get anything. And then are you playing like you're dumb because you didn't get anything? Or are you honestly, you didn't know what you're buying?
No, I agree. Yeah, it's always, it seems like it's always after the fact, so it's hard not to think that a little bit's remorse, and if they would have hit, there would have been no issue, right?
Yep. And I can attest to all of us out there, especially guys who've been doing it a long time. We obviously want everybody to hit and everybody to get their value. You know what I mean?
It doesn't change. What happens on the business side doesn't change whether you do or don't hit, other than if you
exactly
hit. So
right, exactly. Yep. And you navigate, and as products go up in price. I feel like we went from cases. We still try to do them, but you go from cases to 6-box breaks to 3-box breaks to 1-box break. I mean, I feel, are we going to be doing packs? Are we going to do pack breaks at some point?
We're doing like micro investing, like on packs of cards.
Right.
Actually, I made a comment this morning. It's going to age this talk a little bit, but today, you've got Finest Baseball and Absolute Baseball both coming out today, and I went, finally some products that, like, price point wise, full case breaks.
Yeah, exactly.
It's totally.
Nice. Yep. I still split up Absolute to 5, and I had people ask me, "Are you gonna do a case?" I'm gonna definitely do a case, but Finest is like, man, this feels like normal again. It's great.
Yeah, finally. It's been a while.
And it's good to know that all the teams have an autograph, which is great too.
Yep. It's definitely a good thing this baseball product's coming, because, as you know, basketball, football have been just bananas. I mean, it's just you can't hardly do a case break. I mean, you can, but it's for a very select group of people. So,
What do you, and prices of basketball, we all knew in the industry they were probably going to drop a little bit, just because they seemed like they were starting at the top rather than gradually getting there. So what do you tell people in the chat when they're like, well, hey, this basketball product's going down? What's your response to that?
Yeah, it's tough because, pricing is really hard these days, as you know, on a business side, because nowadays you've got perceived retail, what people are trying to charge, right? And then you've got what we see on the back end as wholesale, we'll call it. And then usually reality exists somewhere between there, right? And so because of that, it makes it a little tricky on where should I land with my price, right?
Yes.
That's fair to me, that's fair to the consumer. But the good part about that is it kind of gives you a little bit of a buffer, right? Because you're not hard on any price. So we try to just be as fair as we can to us and the consumer at the same time. If we can buy into something and average down, obviously always do that and take that price down with it. It's hard though. It's really hard. For me, the hardest is when I see a product that, and there aren't as many these days, but that's underpriced. And the collector in me is like, dude, let's rip all of this stuff while it's too cheap, right? But then but then the business side of me is like, no, don't do that. Stack up cases, right? And so it's kind of that part of me is what's these days has gotten really difficult to navigate. Things like Formula One Chrome, when it came out, it was like, I really think that product has some long legs, and we're almost out of it again because I just keep ripping it. I can't stop ripping it. It's so much fun.
Yeah. Same thing with us. I mean, and I think I think what people that aren't into breaks got to realize that the breaks kind of are part of the healthy ecosystem of this hobby, right? Because
100%.
There's a lot of people that don't rip the boxes and they wait for them to mature. Well, they would never mature if nobody was ripping the boxes open.
If no one opens them, they don't go up. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So, and I've seen a lot of breakers kind of go away from ripping and sell, and then they just kind of become sub distributors, so to speak, or they're selling these cases at a price that they're comfortable with to their customers, and they no longer rip.
Yep.
And I it's like, and we could have done that, right? Like if you take the last 2, 3, 4 years of product, and we just took a 4-year vacation.
Yeah, you want to go to a beach?
Right, exactly, right? Could you imagine how much money those would have matured, and we wouldn't have done any work, right? But that doesn't. There's no healthy ecosystem that way. There's nobody ripping. The singles aren't getting out there to people, right? So,
and that's kind of where that's where I've been kind of the last few years is we can all look back over the last 2 years, right, and go, if I wouldn't have opened that, I would have made more money by holding on to it,
right?
But if all of us did that, we want to be investing in the hobby, we want to be building the user base, right? And like you said, if there's no singles out on the market, there is no hobby. So this stuff happens. It's made to be open, and so it's definitely a tough predicament, like for sure. It's a juggling act, with the amount of inventory that you guys go through and we go through and bring in the door and out the door, deciding what stays, what goes, what rips, what doesn't.
Right, exactly.
It's a crazy chess game. Yeah.
Yeah. What would if you you had like a DeLorean and you could have go back 10 years and talk to your 10-year younger self and say, hey, 2020 is going to be the craziest card year ever, and we're going to be in the middle of a pandemic. What would you say to that individual?
probably you're nuts, but yeah, don't open anything. Keep it all. No.
That 12, 13 prism, stop,
Yeah,
hold on to that.
I definitely would have punched myself. That's for sure.
You're like, what kind of drugs is this guy on?
Yeah, I never got into this, like thinking it was going to be anything more than a way to work for myself. You know what I mean?
Right.
And now, hiring people and the amount of people we have on, a daily basis that are doing work with us and for us, and growing this hobby this is unbelievable. You know what I mean? Like we would have never thought this, a few years or 10 years ago in Vegas at a industry summit that we'd be looking at this, the last 18 months that we've looked at. Right. And so, yeah, I probably would have punched myself pretty hard and told myself to soak it all up, because there's a lot of things we took for granted along the way, right?
Yeah, 10 years ago, you were probably like, I don't think I'm going to be doing cards in 10 years, right? I mean, that's just, you're like, oh, it's kind of a hobby turning into a business. And then it's just like, it's gotten to where it was today. Now, I have like a hypothetical here, and people are going to that are listening to this are going to be like, hey, there's no ego in this. I'm just curious to think, if there was no breakers during this period, like say nobody started breaks, but the shops kept staying around, do you think we would have had the 2019, 2020, 2021 that we're having?
Absolutely not. No. It's not possible. I mean, it just isn't. The reaction times for in person, the ability to get information out there for a brick and mortar per se. It's just the lead time's too long. So by the time everyone would have gotten opened or gotten something off the ground, we would have been halfway through. People would have already found something else to put their money into, to put their time into. Right. Right. I think it all worked. I think it all kind of worked together. I don't think it was just. I just think the infrastructure that was built out over the last decade in the breaking world and this kind of cards on demand, we'll call it. It was just a perfect storm for when people are at home looking for something on demand from their computer,
Right.
So,
obviously how eBay came around, like eBay becoming like just being able to look up a card on your phone kind of progressed over that year or two. Right. So, when people compare the junk wax era to the era now, it's like, they didn't have really any other way to sell shows besides sell cards rather than going to shows or going to a card shop. Right. Now you can go in a million Facebook rooms. And, I feel like if we do have everybody's waiting for this bubble to burst and everybody's talking about this bubble to burst, it may drop, but it's not going to drop all the way out, right? So many people invested.
I think, I honestly don't see a bubble. I think we had some hyper speed growth that in a lot of areas of the hobby probably outshot where it should have been. And so I think we're going to have some healthy correction to come back down to a realistic place. But like you said, there's so much real money in the hobby now. And quite frankly, like from a production standpoint, nowhere even close to junk wax era levels. You know what I mean? There is not that much sealed inventory in the market, and the stuff that's newer. Obviously, the last 18 months, I think it's become more of a phenomenon, we'll call it, to stash wax. But from any point before that stuff is so hard to find. So much of it's ripped. So the only negative with where the price has got is that, like, when someone was buying a case of old school Prism or something like that, they were buying it and still weren't ripping it either. And as we kind of talked about, until it gets ripped, it really doesn't affect anything too much, right? We need supply to keep getting. We need us to do our jobs, right?
Right. Everybody don't hold on to it. Rip all, right?
And then you see all these people. Next thing you know, it's people have 10,000 select blasters from Target and Walmart, and you're like, no, it doesn't work that way. Like, it just doesn't work that way. So
it's funny, because we have the shop and we didn't want to, we don't get offered a whole lot of retail, through our distributor channels, which I'm sure you're the same.
Right.
So we're kind of going off the secondary market and trying to buy from people that are getting it from these, or maybe some people have a bot. I don't ask them where they get their stuff, but we had a lot of people coming in the shop asking for retail, and you're like, they think your prices on hobby boxes are insane because it's like, what do you mean selects 1,000? I can get it for 200. It's like, well, that's the blaster version, not the hobby version. So, and I think it's like, I try to educate people that you're buying 10 blasters of select why don't you just buy one hobby box, right?
Yeah.
I mean, your odds are so much better, right? You may get a couple nice rookie cards, some base rookies of Herbert and whatever, but as far as golds and blacks and all these high value cards, you're never going to hit them in the retail stuff.
Impossible to retail. But the same thing, we've kind of tried to navigate the retail wax landscape because there's a need for it. It serves some purposes, right? And so we've tried to stock some of that for getting creative because if there's one thing that's different now than 10 years ago is I feel like our need to be creative in building and filling breaks and making them accessible to people is far greater now than it ever was before.
Oh yeah.
Because we're trying to find ways to make boxes that are 10, 20 times more than they used to be accessible to people, right? And so that takes creativity, and so that's one that we bring in some of the retail because it helps us create value, right? And still deliver a good product. So
and especially when you have like 5 or 6 rookie cards to chase, you're going to get probably one of those in each blaster, right? So or mega box or whatever you're doing. But man, would you ever have thought you would be ripping retail at this point? I mean, like 5 years ago? Probably
another thing I'd go back and smack myself if I said that. But to be fair too, retail, even the product, like what Select, we'll use that since it's kind of the newer one, Select Football Retail, that it hardly looks like a retail product, all the parallels and die cuts and, Panini's done a good job at creating a product that, I think they're recognizing that secondary market prices are going up. And so they can't just put 10 base cards in a blaster box anymore. Right. And so I do think that, a lot of people, I think like to come out and go, Panini's like raising the price on everything. Topps is raising the price on everything. It's like, well, they're not. This is just supply and demand, really, right? And so what they are doing, I think, is trying to create value, knowing that there's a lot more demand than supply, and so prices are going to go up. So there needs to be some value add there.
Yeah, because I mean, people wouldn't want them to just print double either, right? So that's how they can make it up. If they wanted to still sell it at $20, they just make double, right? And they have made a little bit more here and there, but I would say they could have definitely been more greedy in this time period, on making more and making it so much harder to get parallels. They've done a pretty good job of keeping it as less watered down as possible, right?
Sure. And when you're dealing with 6-month lead times on products, they had to predict this stuff 6 months out, and so that's tough to do. It's hard to dog them too much because I feel like over the last year, if there's been a company that's really delivered during this pandemic time, and Panini followed by Topps has really kept product coming, and it's been pretty stellar stuff. So
it has, and especially with the challenges, like people, that maybe are new to this don't know that they used to go to a rookie photo shoot for football, take pictures of all these guys in their uniforms on the field, and now they're having to Photoshop every single player, right? So, which leads me to another question: do you think they're going to have a rookie premiere again, or do you think that they like it the way that it is?
Man, it's tough, man. I was just talking to my wife the other night, and I was talking about how that's the stuff I miss right now, right?
Yeah, me too.
Obviously, the last 18 months, we've been just grinding, killing it, trying to do as much as we can, in this window that we have, right? But what used to be, traveling once a month or so to go to these events and break with players and stuff, that is what really spiced up the calendar, and kept it from just getting into a grind over and over and over and over every day the same. And so I really miss those things. I hope they come back. Part of me on the business side goes, well, they don't need to move cardboard anymore,
Exactly. Right.
So there's a little leverage, kind of
right. Yeah. I mean, me and Dan, it's funny you mentioned that because me and Dan, we're talking about, you have days that are harder than other days in this industry, when you're like, man, one of those days you just want to have a couple drinks, and you're like, you usually have that thing to look forward to that breaks you from your routine is going to the National, going to the Summit, going to the, Topps industry conference, going to the premiere, going to the NBA photo shoot. You have if you have a hard day, you're kind of like, well, in 2 weeks, I'm gonna be out of town anyway. Exactly. You know what I mean? Yep. So it's almost like that thing that you need. So we're so now things are starting to open up, and I think they've crammed them all in the next 6 months, which is going to be crazy, right?
Yes, it's going to be a crazy end of the year.
Right. To back up, which guys did you break with, if you remember? I know there was a ton of them. And who do you think was the most personable out of all the athletes who broke with them, but broke with them?
Man, I probably have like a top three. I would say over the years. Some of them were just because of their local roots. So probably my number three is probably Jason Tatum.
Okay.
Broke with him in New York right before he got drafted. Just he's from St. Louis. Went to Chaminade in St. Louis, and it was just a fun because we connected on just a bunch of different levels from back home. So that was fun. That was a really fun break. And then second, this one's tough. All right, second's gonna be Pat Mahomes. I got to break with him a few times. Once. So
you were at the 17 premiere then, right?
17 premiere, and then I was at the 17 draft before he got drafted.
Wow.
And so that was fun. His mind. I remember calling Melissa that night before he got drafted, so I didn't know he was going to be a Chief yet. And he was in the room with me, and we were breaking, and he was on a phone call with ESPN doing an interview, and we were opening cards, and it was like I think it was like a Contenders draft product, and we were hitting cards, and he would hear me just say the name out loud, and in the middle of his interview with ESPN would be like, "Oh man, that dude crushed it back in like '83." You know, like he knew everything.
Wow.
But every player, like his brain.
While he was on an interview too, at the same time.
While on an interview with ESPN, he was just overhearing me saying a name, and it would just trigger like a something about that player that he knew, and he would just like spit it out. And like his brain is so sharp. Nicest guy freaking ever. So that was fun. And then my all
did he win a Super Bowl? I can't remember.
I think he did. Yeah, I think so.
Okay. It might have happened. Okay. There's like a period of time that I don't remember. So
yeah, right.
As a Niner fan. So
and then number one is my boy DK. Coolest dude ever. I mean, unbelievably genuine dude.
How big is that guy, man? How was he walking through the door?
Massive guy. He cracked me up. He was just like the most normal guy ever. And it was off camera. Like even when we weren't breaking, he just was like hanging out, talking about life. It was just he's an unreal dude. He lives it every part of the way. He's the same guy. He doesn't change when someone walks in the door or when the camera's on or media's on. He's just a genuinely good dude. So DK he's gonna be a hard one to beat because he was just a lot of fun.
That's awesome. Was that 19? That was with Kyler, right? Or no, 18.
That was oh my gosh, 2019.
2019. Okay.
Yeah, 2019. Yep.
Oh, all right. Yeah. Oh yeah, because you were there. Yeah, we had Kyler.
Well, that one was at the whatever the one at the end's called. Not the premiere, the other one. The rookie closeout or rookie roundup or whatever.
Oh yes, when they bring him back to sign all the cards and stuff. Right. That's right. Yeah, because that was where the famous Jared Goff story came from, where he threw his shield, right?
Yep.
I've heard that lingering where he threw a shield up or something like that.
Yep.
Supposedly it was never damaged, but he just he was real slick with it. So
quality
that's
card.
Amazing. Yeah, so I mean that's a pretty cool resume to have, like all those stories, man. So
yeah, that's the fun stuff. Yeah.
How old's your son now, by the way? Is he kind of getting into cards?
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's 5 and he is he wants to come down and sort every day.
Nice.
He's all about the cards. Yeah. Anytime we throw away flawless briefcases, I have to sneak them out because if he sees me throwing one away, forget about it. You know.
Yeah.
So we have to,
I know he stole the show at the Texas Million Card Rip. I know he did an interview that was awesome. So
that dude, yeah, he's something else, man. He makes life a lot of fun. So
what? 14 to start breaking for you, or
hopefully before 13?
That. Yeah, right. Take a couple days off, have them break for you.
That's right.
Nice, man. Well, we're gonna wrap this up. Tell everybody where they can find you and get into your breaks.
Yeah, clubhousebreaks.com is our website, and so we do everything through there. Spots, stream, all that kind of stuff. All sports. We're just we all do the same. Everything. You could, if there's something you want, we're probably breaking it. So
right. Nice, man. Nice. I got to get in on some breaks. Like I haven't gotten a break in a while. I've been too busy. And I actually enjoy getting into breaks and watching somebody else break and, having the excitement of having a team and stuff. And so I'll have to join one of the breaks soon.
That is part of the fun thing too, is that I think in this last 18 months, I have seen more people seeing orders come through from well-known breakers who are just trying to enjoy a break for a night, right?
Exactly.
And it's been a lot of fun because I think there's that stigma that was around a long time ago where like we're all like enemies, competitors. Like, no, like we're all in this together. We all have so much.
I don't think we ever, and I don't want to make us seem like we're better than everybody, but I don't think we ever had any competition, really. We never really were like, screw him, It was just like, we always embraced each other. We always pushed for breaker meetings. We always hung out at events and stuff like that and talked business and learned from each other. I mean, that's the biggest thing, is that like something that you did, I could learn from, that I can change on my website and vice versa. I mean, and that's why I feel like some people compete too much. They don't want to tell people their secrets, but there are really no secrets. It's all out in the open anyway.
No, it's all out there. Like at the end of the day, like the guys who are going to put in the time and grind and put in the work and invest in the hobby, like they're going to be the ones that rise, right? It doesn't matter what kind of secrets, you keep to yourself. It's customers are going to go where they want to go. You don't own your customers, right? And so at the end of the day, just build the best community you can, and like-minded people will join you, right? So
exactly, putting the customer first and doing your best customer service day in and day out, right?
Yeah,
that's all you can do.
That's it.
I mean, packages are going to get lost. A USPS or FedEx is going to run over packages, crush cards. And it got worse at one point during the pandemic. It seems like it's getting better, but
it's getting better.
How you follow up. It's how you follow up with those customers. So
absolutely.
Well, Michael, dude, this was a blast. I had fun having this conversation, and man, we'll have to hang out at the National. So
for sure,
I mean, it's like 7 weeks now. So
yeah, it's coming.
Yeah, it's coming quick. All right, buddy. We'll talk to you later.
I appreciate it.